Hey everyone. Today we're going to be going over a short but important topic. Actually comes up quite a bit on questions with people who are just starting out in business. It's the importance of separating your business and your personal finances. When we talk about this, what we're really talking about is your business structure. Are you going to be a sole proprietor? Or are you going to have a business entity such as an LLC or a corporation? So before we begin, just introduce myself. My name is Alex King. I own and operate JM Capital Bookkeeping Solutions, where we provide bookkeeping and accounting services for people who are in the trades. So if you are new to business in the trades for yourself, or if you've been in business for a while and you want some help getting your books cleaned up, or maybe just taking a task off your plate, we'd be happy to talk to you. But we do offer free Q&As every Wednesday morning from 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. Mountain Time. If you have any specific questions about your bookkeeping, your accounting, the administrative side of your business, please feel free to sign up and drop in. So to get back into it, your personal versus your business finances, okay? So what we're talking about here is your legal structure. Are you a sole proprietor? Are you an LLC or a corporation? If you're a sole proprietor, that's essentially what you are by default. If you just start doing business and you don't take time to register any sort of business entity, you just start taking jobs and making money, you're essentially considered a sole proprietor. Versus if you are an LLC or corporation, you're going to have a business name that you've registered with the state. You're going to get articles of incorporation if you're an LLC. Um, Let me see. You're going to reach out to the IRS, request an employer identification number, an EIN, which is basically like a social security number for your business. So it's going to be a little more of a robust process to get a business entity started up. It's not terribly hard, but there are a few steps. If you stay as a sole proprietor, you might take the time to file a fictitious business name, but you don't even have to do that. When you How do I want to say this? The biggest difference is going to be what happens with the money, if you're mingling your funds or not. So if you're a sole proprietor or just operating under your own name, you're probably going to have one bank account and you're going to use it for personal and for business funds that come in and go out. And that's really going to be the biggest distinction between that and having a formal business structure. If you have a formal business structure, you are going to have your own bank account. The bank account is going to be under the business name. You're going to use that EIN to establish the business bank account. And any transaction that's related to business dealings is going to go through the business account. And any transaction that's for personal is going to go through your personal account. And that is going to be the number one thing that if, heaven forbid anything were to happen, any sort of lawsuit, if something got really screwed up with one of the jobs that you did and people were trying to sue you, if there was any sort of insurance that had to get involved, it's the mingling of the funds that they're really going to look at that's going to determine if you are a legitimate business LLC or if you're a sole proprietor. So keeping a distinction between your personal funds and your business funds is very important for liability purposes. Okay, so really what this boils down to is liability. When you create a business entity, again, we're not going to go into the different types, but pretty much an LLC or a corporation, that is a standalone thing. You're saying this company is its own thing. It's got its own EIN, right? Which is basically a social security number. It's got its own bank account. It's got its own name. The name is filed with the state. Me, my person, and this business are two separate things. And when you do that, you're kind of sheltering your person from what happens in the business. If you are just operating as a sole proprietor, then there's no distinction between you and your business. And heaven forbid, if anything was to happen, right? Maybe let me see, maybe you're working on a toilet and you thought you had a leak fixed, but you didn't tighten the supply line properly. And it just drips and it drips and it drips down through the floor and then it drips down into the kitchen and it causes a bunch of water damage. You are personally on the hook for that. And if, the homeowners were total jerks and they wanted to come after you, all of your personal assets are accessible to them because, again, there's no distinction between you and the work that you do. If, however, you have a business entity and the same thing happens and they want to come after you, you have grounds to make an argument that, like, no, this is my business here. This is what happened. This is where the mistake was made. And that's different than my person here. My car, my home, my assets are protected. So that's really, when you're talking about mingling personal and business finances, that is kind of what's at the heart of it, is the liability. And really what your goal is when you're operating a business is to kind of create an entity of its own. And not mixing the funds is going to be the number one thing that you can do to really create that distinction. So this was a short presentation on the difference between mingling and not mingling your funds. I hope it was educational. Again, if you have any specific questions, we do a free Q&A every Wednesday morning, 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. Mountain Time. There is a link to the Calendly sign up in the description of this video if you want to sign up through that. You can also reach out to me directly at the contact information on the screen.